Very good evening to everyone present here tonight. My name is Brian and I will be your host for tonight. On behalf of the JPO family, we'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone tuning in for tonight's broadcast. We hope that everyone is doing well and staying safe indoors. A friendly reminder to maintain good hygiene at all times and maintain social distancing when heading out. As we'd like to continue improving your experience with us, please help us achieve this by completing the poll that will be published during this broadcast. To anyone who is interested in sharing tonight's broadcast, a live feed is being shared on the JPO YouTube channel. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free to type them out in the Q&A section down below. For those of you joining us from YouTube, please type your questions down in the live chat down below. A recording of the webinar will also be uploaded onto the channel. Tonight's seminar features Madam Jeanette Lin, with a topic being the challenges of a homemaker returning to the world of music. Jeanette Lin was a grand prize winner of the 1995 Canadian music competition, named the International Stepping Stone, as well as the Canada Yamaha Prize. She is currently a freelance pianist, a piano teacher, and a full-time mother. Born in Shanghai, China, Jeanette grew up in a musical family. Her father was a violinist, her mother is a pianist, and her brother is an opera conductor. She attended the secondary school of the Shanghai Conservatory of Music. In 1987, Jeanette received a full scholarship to enter the Royal College of Music in London, England, under the tutelage of the acclaimed piano pedagogue, Professor Yu Chun-yi. During her study in England, she won many prizes and awards, including the Kendall Taylor Beethoven Prize, the Joyce Scott Chopin Prize, the Arnold Zeff Postgraduate Prize, as well as the Sydney and Peggy Shinmin Piano Prize. In 1990, she obtained a first-class performance diploma, a teacher's diploma, as well as the Hopkinson Gold Medal for outstanding achievement, awarded to her by Her Majesty herself, the Queen Mother. In 1991, she was presented to and performed for Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, in St. James's Palace. Later that year, she won the grand prize in the Amy Brand Pianoforte competition in Birmingham, England. Thereafter, she went to the Western University of Canada and as an exchange scholar from the Royal College of Music to study with Professor Ronald Turini, one of the few pupils of Vladimir Horowitz. In 1993, she received the University of Toronto Open Fellowship and completed the Master of Music program in 1995. Jeanette performed for and was coached by world-renowned pianists and piano pedagogues, namely Fanny Waterman, Tatiana Nikolaeva, Kendall Taylor, John Lill, Foot Song, Tamas Vasari, John Barstow, Irina Zavitskaya, and many more in competitions and masterclasses. Throughout her career, Jeanette has performed in many countries in Europe, Asia, and North America. She performed with the world-famous cellist Yo-Yo Ma during his first concert tour to Shanghai. After a 20-year hiatus from her performing career to be a housewife and a full-time mother, Jeanette is now making a comeback to the concert stage. As a musician, she regularly collaborates with the Alberta Winds, the Rocky Mountain Symphony Orchestra, and a Time Point Ensemble in Calgary. As a teacher, she is the recipient of the Steinway Top Music Teacher Award for the past 2 years. So, as our JP family attendees are mostly students ranging from primary school to college, their parents and their teachers, the sharing of knowledge and advice Madam Jeanette has for all of us tonight is invaluable and greatly appreciated. The JPO is very honored to have Jeanette Lin join in as our guest for tonight. I hope they will all join me in giving her a warm welcome. So without further ado, once again, a very good evening, or in your case, a very good morning to you, Jeanette Lin. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good evening to you. I'm good, thank you.
That's good. Well, to start tonight's interview, what can you tell us about the videos that we were just watching earlier on?
Right. That was a concert I did 2 weeks ago. As you know, this year is the 250 years anniversary of Beethoven's birth. So we originally planned this concert as a season opener in October, but because of COVID, it was delayed until November. And as you can see, all the mask wearing, everything. So yes, it's during COVID. And because of the strict restriction, we couldn't use the wind instruments. So instead, it was a reduced string ensemble plus the piano. So that was quite a meaningful event. Anyway, you could hear probably the gusting wind outside. It was said probably all the wind instrumentalists were complaining from outside the hall, you know, please don't lock us out and we need to come in too. So yes, that was the wind.
Okay. Oh, all right. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. So, so as mentioned in your biography, you had the opportunity to perform for the Queen Elizabeth II. So, how would you like to tell us about your experience on this and any other fascinating events during your early musician years in London?
Yes, I performed for Her Majesty the Queen in 1991 at St. James's Palace, and it was a concert given to about 200 diplomats from around the world, and the Queen and Prince Philip were the guests of honor. So that was really my greatest honor. And I think I was very nervous, apart from trying to get my fingers listen to me. I was also worried about how to curtsy and all the royal protocols. So I was practicing that before the concert rather. But to my surprise, she was very down to earth and she's very professional. After we played, she came to greet and chatted with us. And she came to me obviously after reading my biography. She mentioned that she's visited my hometown, Shanghai, just recently. And she even said that I know you have received a gold medal from my mother. Now, by royal protocol, she is supposed to refer to her mother as Her Majesty the Queen Mother. But instead, she said, you received a medal from my mother. So instantly, she put me at ease. So that was something very memorable. But I think the most bizarre things I did while I was in London was a summer job that I was asked to do to break in 2 new pianos for Freddie Mercury, the lead singer of the rock band Queen. So here we go. I performed for the real Queen, and then here is the fake Queen. But that was in 1990, and I was at the time preparing for the Chopin competition, so I needed a place to practice, and they needed somebody to break in 2 custom-made Fazioli pianos. So I thought it was an opportunity, but I had no idea who they were, what this rock band is about. I spent every day, all morning, all summer there. So, but you know what? It wasn't until the year after, in 1991, I believe, when the news came that Freddie Mercury passed away, that I realized how famous he was. And I missed the opportunity to meet him and ask for his photograph. But anyway, yeah, something to remember.
All right. Well, it definitely sounds like you had a very eventful youth during your time in
Yes,
London. So, yeah.
very interesting time. Yes, indeed.
Thanks for sharing all of that with us.
You're welcome.
All right. So, how about your 20-year hiatus from the music world? So, what prompted you to return to the music world after such a long time?
Right. I think saying goodbye to music was emotionally hard, but um, at least I didn't have to practice and keep the routine. So I was quite happy to be a housewife and a mother to my daughter, and I was enjoying all the baking, cooking, crafting, and then etc. But something happened 5 years ago in 2015 that prompted me into getting back to music, and that was never my plan to begin with. In 2015, a routine flu shot damaged my spinal cord, and I was subsequently diagnosed with transverse myelitis. So for a few months, I lost sensation in my hands, my fingers, arms, and later on, when I did gain some control of my hands, I didn't have any strength. So that was a turning point because, when you always had something, had use of hands, you never really cherish that. And one really never know the importance of something and how much it means to you until one actually lost it. And this is what I felt at that time, that I desperately wanted to get back to my normal routine, and I desperately wanted to feel my fingers again and to be able to get back um, to everyday life. And so yes, that was a turning point in my life.
Hmm. All right. Well, thanks for sharing such a difficult topic with us. Like, I'm sorry to hear that that happened, but it's good that now, right now that you're right now, I'm assuming that you've recovered completely. So yeah, that's a good thing. But yeah, thanks for sharing all that with us. And
It's not easy, but yes, at times, at the beginning, I still struggle, of course, and I've learned since to live with it and to deal with it and move forward.
that's definitely a good way of looking at it then. So, how did you overcome such an extreme challenge? Because not being able to use your hands,
Right.
especially, would have been difficult.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I had to do um, rehabilitation for months, and but physical disability apart, I think it's the mental and emotional obstacle that I had to overcome. And at that time, I did not plan out this way, but looking back, I think I had a really good support system that I had around me. First of all, I had my immediate family, my husband and my daughter, to be my most loyal supporter, of course. And then I rely heavily on my best friend at college, and she gave me invaluable advice and unwavering support. Even to this date, if I feel nervous about something and I'm unsure about certain passages, um, I would ask for her advice, and that sort of was really the supporting um, um, uh, support system that I had. But then again, at some point, I just feel that it wasn't enough because I thought, okay, I had to do rehabilitation. But instead of somebody telling me, okay, wiggle your fingers this way for 50 times and 10 sets a day, every day, uh, why don't I turn this into this perhaps and play something on the piano? At least I can make some sound. And I used to know what to do, so I can judge whether or not I've gained uh, some strength. So yes, one thing lead to another. I just slowly started practicing Czerny etudes or Bach or something very fundamental. And it got to the point that I felt that I needed an audience and I need to be told if I'm doing the right thing. So in 2016, I contacted my former professor, Mr. Yu Chen Yi, in Singapore, and I told him what had happened and my situation at the time. Now, this is not something that a teacher would like to hear, a former student who stopped practicing for 20 years and then followed by a serious illness, stopped the sensation in the fingers. But he replied right away and was very encouraging, gave me a lot of good advice in terms of how to choose repertoire, what I should do. So I followed suit and I wrote back to him and said, okay, I'll play these things you asked me to, but do you think you would still want to hear me play if I practice And he said, yes, I would be delighted. So the following year in 2017, um, I made a trip to Singapore. Yes, all the way to Singapore. And I played for him on three occasions. He heard a recital program that I prepared for him and gave me tremendous amount of encouragement and more advice. So on my return, things just started to pick up. So
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for explaining that to us. It definitely sounded like both your family and your mentor were a great deal of support for you. So yeah.
yes, very much so.
All right. So even after you had recovered from this ordeals, what made you come back from a life as a full-time housewife and mother to become a freelance musician, being back in the professional world of music?
Well, I think several things. Throughout my youth, I would say that I was fortunate enough to be blessed with good facilities. And as a pianist, I had uh, long fingers, big hands, uh, bigger than other girls at least, and big stretch. And I never had to work too hard for it. So when I lost all of these, it just suddenly dawned on me that I needed to do something, and I wanted to prove to myself that I can still do it and I still have it. I would say that it's not easy. Um, on the other hand, um, when I met my husband, uh, who's, by the way, born and raised in KK, he didn't know that I used to be on stage performing. Um, I already gave up my performing career. So um, he actually never heard me play on the stage. And my daughter never heard me play on stage as well. So again, I would really like to have them in my audience, even if it's just for once, to experience this. And no matter how much I tell them, I used to do this and used to do that, um, I think it really helps for them to understand my previous life if I walk on stage and play once for them. So that was my wish, really.
Hmm. All right. Well, that's definitely interesting there. Like basically your family was your support and is your drive to it has been your drive to come back to the music world. So yeah.
Absolutely. My motivation, yes. You need something like this at that moment, when everything's down and everything seems to be against you. So of course, their support is extremely important, and I have them to thank for.
I'm definitely glad to hear that your family has been this very supportive one. So yeah, good on you then. So now that you are, so to say, starting from the bottom up, how did you manage to make a name for yourself in the music community since your 20-year hiatus?
Yes, it's difficult. I mean, after 20 years gap, I really don't know where I could start. I mean, for once, when I came to Calgary, I didn't know anyone, and I basically stopped um, meeting any musician friends. I didn't know any musicians in the city. So to make myself sort of noticed and be known, I had to go out and play, force myself to play. But at the time, I was so afraid to play anything. I couldn't play from memory after 20 years. To get over the jitter, I made myself go to the piano store, and instead of them asking me to try different pianos and play a few bars here and there, I made myself sit down and play one complete piece just to try to see if I can memorize one piece at a time. And somebody actually heard me in Steinway Hall, and turned out this person was a conductor and was having a new orchestra. So we got to know each other and chatted. And he mentioned that he has this orchestra, and if I would like to play one day with them. So of course I said yes, I'll be delighted. But I thought it was just, small talk between musicians, and I didn't think too much of it. And I went away for a trip. On my return, there was a message from Steinway saying that somebody left a package of music for me. And that never happened to me because I didn't know anyone in town. But turned out that this conductor left a whole bunch of score for me, and it was a world premiere for a new piece. That was my very first gig to play with an orchestra. And then after that, it was mostly through word of mouth. I started to play for different orchestras and ensembles, first as substitute, of course, and then later became regular and now a principal keyboardist for them. So yes, it's a long way and it hasn't been easy, but I would say that it's looking back, it's worthwhile, and I can't believe what happened. I didn't really plan this way, and never thought I would make a return.
All right. Well, that was definitely like a good way of getting yourself out there, I suppose, because you'd be playing in school, and by stroke of luck, you managed to land your gig. So yeah,
Yes,
thanks
yes.
for thanks for sharing that with us. So before we move on, before we move on forward, I would just like to remind our audience, if you have any questions for Jeanette, please type your questions down in the Q&A section down below, or you can leave your questions in the live chat on YouTube. So yeah. So going back to the interview, given that you couldn't have possibly pushed away all your responsibilities in your domestic life, how did you manage to balance both such time-consuming aspects of your life? Because practicing definitely takes hours, and the same can be said for for taking care of your family and such. So yeah.
Yes, I can tell you that at times they can be frustrating, and at times there's plenty of guilt, I would say. My family can probably tell you that there were uh, many frozen meals and delayed dinners for my daughter, especially when my husband is away on his work trip, and I was the only parent at home, but I couldn't give her dinner at certain time because of my work or rehearsal. So yes, it's been hard on the family, but I think this is from my own experience anyway. If you love what you do and you have a good support system, then no matter the amount of obstacle, you'll somehow manage it. It won't be very pretty at the beginning, but you'll manage it. Yes, as long as you put in your heart and soul into something you love doing, you enjoy doing, and things will come. And hopefully, you achieve happiness and some sort of balance in life.
All right. Thanks for that. Just to expand a bit on this, do you happen to have any tips for anybody going through the same things?
um, um, well, I can only speak from my own experience and as a freelance pianist. Um, I think I would encourage young aspiring musicians, especially pianists, to explore their music horizon. With pianists growing up, spending a lot of time, hours on end, practicing our own repertoire, our solo pieces. And we forget that there's a whole lot of different music out there. And I would encourage them to play different music and play with fellow musicians and with as many instruments as possible. Because that really is a good lesson for me. I was brought up to be this soloist and soloist alone. But then after 20 years, when I came back to start from the bottom up, um, I had to do whatever there was. It is tough, and I had to do everything from um, um, orchestral work, chamber music, new music, um, and basically I have to be very flexible as well. So I think through playing with other instrumentalists, I learned a great deal from them. At first, I thought, okay, I love violin, I like string instruments, and I would like to play with them. But later on, I found that I really enjoy um, wind instruments and wind music, and I learned a great deal of breathing, phrasing, and the sonority that they have and the colors. So I enjoy playing in all kinds of format, and I encourage all young pianists to be flexible. Um, you don't set your path as being a soloist and playing only a solo repertoire, and you play all kinds of things, and be versatile and adaptable. I mean, when I first started, and even now, sometimes I don't always get to play on piano. I play whatever they ask me to. So if there's a harpsichord part, a Baroque trumpet concerto, I'll play harpsichord. And if Christmas time, there's the Tchaikovsky Nutcracker, I play on the celesta. And if it's more Christmas music, I had to play on pipe organ. I learned it to play pipe organ. And there was once I even played on a piano, but with a harp score because the harpist wasn't around. So yes, you just have to be adaptable and not to be too picky. But yes, I would encourage everyone to do that. I think it's a very good way to get started.
All right. Sorry. All right. Thanks for that advice. I'm very sure that our audience will definitely take that to heart. So yeah, I think we have one last question before we move on to the Q&A section. So this is the question that comes from the JPO itself. So as you may have heard, the Jesselton Philharmonic Orchestra, or the JPO, has evolved itself in a variety of activities. So on behalf of the JPO, we would like to ask about your views on the JPO and its activities. Additionally, we would like to ask for any suggestions that you may have for the JPO and its activities so that we may further improve ourselves.
um, well, I can't say that I have any suggestions, but I read some information about JPO and what Mr. Jeanette Lin has been doing at both the professional level and the grassroots. And I would like to congratulate him and JPO for doing such a great job at promoting classical music at grassroots. I think it's very important, especially at this time, COVID, when everybody's staying at home. I think classical music does have a huge healing power, and it's a language that everybody understands. Um, I myself find that music has always been in my life, and now that I'm back to performing, I think I'll never leave that behind anymore. And in terms of outreach program and reaching to the underprivileged children, I'm greatly encouraged because traditionally classical music is something for the privileged few. But I think times changed, and we ought to reach out and promote live music. It really, I find the connection with what the JPO is doing. That I also work with a group of musicians that we regularly go to small towns around Rocky Mountain foothills. If anybody who knows Calgary, you would know that it's right beside the Rocky Mountains. So small towns around the foothills um, are quite remote, and people there don't necessarily get a chance to go to big cities and buy tickets to a symphony orchestra concert. So we bring our music to them instead of them listening to CD. We have live music. This way, they actually have a chance to get to know what a live concert is like, and they get to talk to musicians afterwards. And hopefully, it gives them some inspiration, and maybe one day they would like to pursue a career in music. Or perhaps I keep telling people, you don't have to be a musician, but perhaps one day you become um, a businessman, and you would be able to sponsor art or music. And don't forget music, because we do need a lot of support and funds as well. So in a way, it goes both ways. We help each other. First, of course, is the education, and then there comes the support and appreciation. And yes, so I'm very encouraged by all the great work you've done, and I hope to one day visit KK and joining in for this good cause.
All right. Well, many thanks for your kind words there, Jeanette. I'm very sure Teacher Ling will be happy to accommodate you in terms of like organizing something. Maybe
Yes,
one
and
time.
even to meet young aspiring musicians, or just to meet music lovers. Yeah, that would be great.
It'll probably also be a good trip back home for your husband.
Oh
It might-
yes, indeed. Yes, we visited in 2013, and my husband brought me and our daughter um, to KK, and so it's wonderful visit. Warm, friendly people, and delicious food. So yes, definitely we'll be back for sure.
Right, that's good to hear then. Looking forward to be able to meet you soon then.
Yes,
Maybe one
me
day
too.
over. Yeah. All right. So with that, I think it's just about time to move on to the Q&A section right now. So we do have a
Okay.
few questions coming in from the in the chat, as you can see over here. So let's see. So the first question comes from an anonymous person. So this person is saying, "Hello, Jeanette. Many thanks for sharing your stories with us. Would you like to elaborate about your first experience back on the stage, back from your after your hiatus from music?"
My very first concert after
Yep.
20 years. Nerve-wracking. I think it wasn't just the concert. I think it was the first rehearsal, because I haven't been sitting in a place where many musicians are around, especially in the orchestra. Because as you know, pianists always lock ourselves in the practice room and practice away, and we don't really chat with other musicians. Um, at least that's how I was brought up. But the first rehearsal was daunting, I would say. But I beforehand I asked advice from my brother, who's a conductor, and my mother, who's a pianist, and I asked them for advice. What do I do? I'm really nervous about this. I don't know what to do. How does the orchestral rehearsal go? What what do they normally do? So my brother, being a conductor, of course, asked me to do two things. One is to be prepared and count all the bars, uh, and number two, watch the stick. Of course, I mean, he's a conductor. He asked me to watch the stick. So that, yeah, I took the advice. My mother, as a pianist, said that when she was an accompanist or working with other musicians, she always, always practiced until she could memorize the entire piece, be it a concerto with a cellist or a sonata with a violinist. she memorized it all, so that she didn't need to turn pages, or she didn't require a page turner. Therefore, she could focus completely on the soloist or on her partner. And I thought, oh, okay, so that's what I did. I practiced very hard and studied the score, so I not only know my part, I could almost memorize it. I also know all the different entries. Say if there's an oboe entry or there's a flute, I look for the cues. So if I can't be bothered to count 57 bars, rest, at least I know if I hear, a certain the French horn coming in here or oboe there, I get all the cues. So I was more prepared than other musicians. While they could sight read, I had to be more prepared than them because I had no experience at all, and I was very, very nervous. Even after that, I still think that I probably made a couple of wrong entries. So I got a few stares from the conductor, watch my stick. So yes, my brother was right. Yes, so that was my first experience. Very, very nerve-wracking. Yes.
I'm sure they definitely come a long way since then.
Well, it's still a learning process. I mean, we all make mistakes, but we learn from it, and hopefully we improve.
Definitely. So I think that sorts that question. So I think we can move on to the next question from one of our audience members. So they are saying, "Hello, would you like to share with us how you go about juggling your time in between taking care of your kid, family, practicing, and performing?" So this is about similar to what we just mentioned earlier on.
Yes, it's hard, but as I said, I do have a very good support, and that's my husband. So during the season that I have rehearsals, teaching, and performance, plus taking care of the child, yes, we have to sort of juggle between his schedule, his work schedule, and my work schedule. So during the day, I would be practicing and looking after my daughter's school runs, um, and picking her up after school. But then after that, I start teaching, or I have to go to rehearsal. My husband would be my driver, driving us around. And I have to say that I felt really bad at times when they couldn't have a meal because of me going to a rehearsal, and it was, say, an hour away. So yes, they had to eat on the road, or my daughter would have to be on the road, one hour at a time, waiting for me to finish my rehearsal. And it's very difficult and also frustrating. Um, for example, sometimes I was in the middle of a wonderful practice, and I was right in it, and the phone rang, and it's from school, and they tell me that your daughter just had an accident. You better come. So yes, of course, I had to drop everything I was doing, rush to school, send her to children's hospital. I remember vividly once that she had a mild concussion at school. So sending her to school while waiting in the wait room, I think we were there for on that day 6 or 7 hours waiting. I was thinking both. I mean, what will happen to her? Is it serious? At the same time, I was going through my own pieces, and the part that I couldn't get over, how to solve this. So yes, a lot of guilt and a lot of frustration on both sides. Yes, so you just have to try to use your time really wisely and learn to break up your practice. You don't have the luxury of the time when you were in college, when you can have 2 hours straight. Right now, I find that constantly distracted because I can sit down and just as I start, um, 10 minutes later, I suddenly remember, oh no, um, this afternoon I have to get ready for her to do this and that, and I need to get this. Or, oh, dinner. What do I have, for dinner? And my daughter asked for this, or it's still in the freezer. I have to defrost it. So of course, immediately I have to get back to the kitchen and start preparing, and then come back. So yes, it's a lot of distraction. But as I said, if you love what you do and if you're determined um, to to do something you truly enjoy, and with a good support system, it can be done. It's just a lot harder. I
Mm,
hope that answers the question.
yeah, I think it does. I think it sort of does answers. So that's good then. So yeah, moving on to the next question, I suppose. So we have another person. So this person is asking, did you find that piano playing actually sped up your recovery besides the normal physiotherapy rehabilitation exercises that you were doing?
I think so. I think had I not been a pianist before, I would not know what to do with my hand and what um, I'm capable of, what is gaining back my full strength. But because I knew what I'm capable of, my hands are capable of, so I knew um, how much strength I got back. Um, so that's probably the reason I decided to get back to practice again. I did not set out to get back on stage. I just thought it's a good physiotherapy instead of someone telling me, you do this. Um, if I can translate into um, playing on the piano, then I can judge for myself how much weight I have and how much strength I can have from my shoulder, my arm, and all the way. So yes, I think being a pianist really helped um, my recovery in a way, very much so.
Well, that's definitely good to hear then. We'll move on to the next question then. So this person is saying, "Hello, Jeanette. Would you say that you are thankful for what has happened? What's your opinion on the whole ordeal?"
I'm not sure if I feel thankful, but it definitely served as a uh, wake up call, I would say. As I said, you you have certain facilities and then you throw it all away. And at that time, I didn't really feel sorry. I didn't feel that it's a pity that I left all my years of training behind. Um, but coming back, yes, I think um, it's 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 sorry. Sorry, I just lost it. What was the question again?
So basically, the question is, what would your opinion be
Yeah,
on
yeah.
yeah
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
yes. What happened? Yeah, I think it made me appreciate my training a lot more. It made me appreciate um, my first part of performing life a lot more, and appreciate all the hard work one has to put in. Um, and Now, I think I have one thing to thank for, and that is my early training. Um, I had a solid foundation, and I have my early teachers and my mother to thank for. They gave me a good, solid foundation in terms of finger articulation. Um, so yes, when I get back, I think I appreciated all their teachings and their advice early on in my life. So I follow suit. So yes, I'm in a way thankful for that, my early training. Um, and I wouldn't say that I'm thankful for what happened, the incident. I don't wish upon anyone to have this kind of ordeal and not knowing um, what is going to happen. Um, but yes, it served as a lesson, I would say, because you just never know what's going to happen, especially to freelance musicians. Um, the road ahead of us is unpredictable and daunting, and um, we don't know. Tomorrow I might cut my fingers. Tomorrow I might have some kind of injury, and all kinds of obstacles in life. But it's how we deal with it, accept it, and move on. And I'm very fortunate in the way that I was able to somehow uh, get back the sensation and the use of my hands. So I have that to thank for. And even though at times I still find that my strength is not 100%, my physical strength and technically, I feel that I'm weak. I'm not where I used to be, of course, after 20 years. Um, but I had to compensate with um, all the other things that I have. And what I have left is the renewed love for music. So yes, I do have that to thank for. I mean, my renewed love for music after what I went through. I know what I've lost and what I regained again. So yes, if you say that I'm thankful for that, yes, I am in a way. Not the illness, but what I learned afterwards.
Um, Thanks for sharing that. Because I can definitely agree that what you just said, like regarding being thankful for what you have and everything, that definitely doesn't just apply to music and everything. It just applies to everything in life as well. So yeah, thanks
Yes.
for saying all that. So with that, I think yep, we should have enough time for maybe one or two more questions. So let's see. We have one coming in from another audience member. So they're asking, what would your advice be on someone who has stopped playing music for quite a long time and would like to pick it up again?
Oh, that's a very good question. I happen to meet a lot of audience who came afterwards and said that they used to play piano, but due to work, family, and other career pursuit, they stopped. But now they would like to get back, at least just for their own enjoyment. Um, I can only speak from my own experience that I think we should all start in small steps and not to expect too much at one time. Um, from my own experience, when I first got back on, and I was of course gun ho about everything. Okay, now I can play even though weak. So I made a mistake of setting out a plan. Okay, this is if this year's my only year I can play piano, and next year I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe this problem will come back again. So I thought, okay, I'll play whatever I did not learn, and I would like to learn. So I come up with my bucket list, so to speak. What I wish to play. And the first on my bucket list was um, Bach Chaconne, and that was actually written originally for violin. I love violin music. My father's a violinist, but unfortunately, I did not uh, um, carry on his wish, and I gave up. So I never really um, learned to play violin very well. So I thought, okay, this is my chance. If I have to play something, I'll play Bach, Bozzoni, Chaconne. That is a very ambitious piece. And uh, after talking to my professor, he suggested, you should have something small, and small steps goes a long way. And I would encourage anyone who wants to pick up music or piano playing again to start with something that speaks to them, not necessarily a huge piece. I know people want to play a big piece, just to show, okay, this is the greatest achievement. I want to play a Brahms concerto, a Rach 3, or a Liszt sonata. But instead, play something that they have a connection with, be it a short piece, Schumann or something, Mozart, something that they can handle to begin with, and then grow from that. I think that's very important. Play something that speaks to you, not something that other people think that's how they measure a good player, and that ultimately is going to set you apart, and also brings you the greatest joy, is to play something that you truly feel.
All right.
And
Well,
and yes, small steps.
all right. Well, thanks for that response, Jeanette. I think we should have enough time for one last question from the audience.
Okay.
So we have one person asking this question. If you had a choice, what would you have done differently during your musical journey?
I know it's hard to say that I wish all these ordeals never happened, but of course it happened. I probably wouldn't want to give up piano playing again, now that I know how much I missed it. I did not realize it. I think, if anything, it would be I regretted that I did not learn a large repertoire, and I only focused on solo pieces. If I had to do it all over again, number one, I would probably spend more time playing chamber music, playing in the orchestra, playing with singers, learn the different phrasing, breathing from fellow musicians, play anything, anything possible. This is one. Number two is to never give up. I think yes, the 20 years away from music did cost quite a bit, and in the way that when I came back, I had a lot to catch up, of course, and I'm still learning, because my fellow musicians, we went to college together, or I now meet. They've been doing music professionally for the past 25 years, and I consider myself as a novice. I'm just starting from the bottom up. If I had to do it all over again, and I had a choice, I probably would not have given up and would have continued. That's my wish, but of course, you don't get to pick, and so I'll cherish what I have now.
All right. Thanks for sharing all that with us. So I think
You're
we've
very
just
welcome.
about. Thank you again. Well, I think we've just about run out of time for tonight. So yeah, thanks again for all your responses early on.
Oh, pleasure. It's a pleasure to be talking to you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jeanette. Sorry everyone, but we are coming to the end of tonight's broadcast. We'd like to remind everyone that our JPO family program will be broadcasted twice a week until further notice. So join us next time with our next guest, who will be revealed at a later date. More details on this can be found on our Facebook page. A video recording of tonight's broadcast will also be available on the YouTube channel, along with past webinars and the soon-to-be broadcasted interviews. So feel free to share the Zoom webinar registration link, the JPO YouTube channel, and even the JPO Facebook page with your friends and family. For our YouTube audience, if you are enjoying our program, please show your support by pressing the like and subscribe button down below. You guys have been an amazing audience, and we from the JPO family wishes that everyone stays safe and healthy as we continue to face this crisis together. I'll now be leading the prayer to end tonight's program. So please pray in whatever faith you believe in regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. We pray that everyone in the world continues to stay strong in surviving through these difficult times, and that a solution to the virus will soon be found. We pray that governments across the world continue to improve upon their efforts and decision making so as to protect their people and curb the spread of the virus. We pray for the safety and well-being of everyone working as we edge closer to December, as we face the new surges of cases. We pray for the continued safety and morale of the frontliners who are risking their lives on a daily basis so that they may continue to provide for those in need. So with that, once again, many thanks to Jeanette for joining us tonight, and many thanks for all of you for tuning in tonight as well. Good night, and we hope to see you all again next time. See you.